YouTube, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing the reading habits tag. I saw Sean the Bookmaniac do this and he didn't tag me, but I decided I'm going to do it anyway because it's a bleak and barren Tuesday here in Hyde Cottage. No, I don't live in Hyde Cottage, but that's the tagline that Steve Donahue uses whenever he doesn't get books. He gets a lot of books in the mail, and on Sunday he doesn't get a regular mail delivery. So in order to make his daily videos, he usually says it's a bleak and barren Sunday. And it's Sunday here. I don't have book mail. I don't get book mail every day, but I decided to do a tag this Sunday. And so we're calling this a bleak and barren Sunday in New York City, which means that we're doing the reading habits tag. And I saw these questions, 11 questions that Sean the Bookmaniac put on his video. So I'm just gonna answer them and let's see how fast we can do this and whether or not we can do this in one take. The questions, number 1, do you have a certain place at home for reading? No. I like to read in bed. I love to read in bed. However, if I'm in bed with my husband with a book, quite often I don't read very much. I like to read on the couch. I read, if I'm reading on my Kindle, which I don't have a Kindle, I read on my Kindle app on my phone or on my iPad. And if I'm doing that, I read anywhere. At home, in the couch, at the dining room table, in the kitchen when I'm cooking. But most times I want to sit with a book, with a print book. I want to go in bed. Question number 2 is bookmark or random piece of paper. Random piece of paper. And not because I don't have bookmarks. In fact, I have my own bookmarks, which I guess is not really a bookmark. It's more of a book card. I'll show you one, which means I'm going to have to cut this when I step away. I'm back. This is the book club schedule that I made, and it's big. It's a 5x7 card, but you know, most books you could fit that as a bookmark in there. This is the schedule for the book club this year, the Runwright Reads 2019 book club. And so I've made these. If you're interested in getting one, you want to read along with me, then click the link down below and go to my Etsy shop. This is not a plug, but what I'm saying is that I have my own bookmarks. I have lots of things that I can use to mark the page in my book, and yet I still use random pieces of paper. I use my Metro card. I use a receipt that's in my bag. Sometimes I find bookmarks at the time when I need to mark the page in a book. Quite often, no. Question number 3, can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter or a certain amount of pages? I stop reading. I stop reading when I have to go for one reason or another. I feel like I've answered these questions before. I guess most tags have questions like this. But no, I don't have to stop at the end of a chapter. As a matter of fact, I almost never stop at the end of a chapter. I just stop when I have to. Quite often it's something that's distracted me and I need to stop reading, and so I just stop where I am, and when I come back, maybe I have to read a couple of paragraphs to remember where I am in the book, but that's okay. After a certain number of pages, no. I saw Books and Lala do a video about reading 116 pages every day for a month. And I have never done that. I've never read in a very planned way like that, where I read exactly a certain number of pages. I mean, she didn't even do it for her video. If you've watched the video, you'll know that she kind of failed her challenge after a few days, but then she continued. She went back to doing it. But no, I've never done that. I've never read, like, say 100 pages a day. In fact, this month I made a plan that I was going to read 30 pages or 35 pages of the big book that I'm reading for March of the Mammoths. I'm reading the biography of Gandhi. My husband and I are supposed to be doing a buddy read, and today is March 10th. At this point I should be 300 pages into the book. I'm still not even up to page 100, so I'm gonna have to increase those numbers, or my number of pages that I read every day, in order to get through that. And he hasn't been reading either. You know, planning your reading out quite often doesn't work. I mean, you've seen my TBR videos. You know that quite often I plan the number of books I'm gonna read for the month and I still don't read them. I plan the books that I will read and I still don't read from that list. So planning a certain amount of pages to read every day has never worked for me. I've never even made it a goal. Question number 4, do you eat or drink while reading? Yes, I do. I love to snack and read. I love to have sliced apples or cookies or candy or drinks with ice cubes. But yes, I will absolutely eat or drink while reading. I like to sit in Starbucks and eat or drink something while I'm reading. Absolutely. Question 5, multitasking, music or TV while reading. I used to do very well at this. I used to be able to watch a TV program and read at the same time. These days, I find that I concentrate better on reading if there isn't much activity that I'm also trying to give a certain amount of my attention to. So if I'm already immersed in the book, it won't matter what's going on around me, because I can just as easily go back into that setting and go back into that place and go back into that story that I'm reading. And for this, I'm talking more about fiction. But if I'm just getting into a book, if I'm just getting into a fictional story, I kind of want it to be as quiet as possible, or if I'm in a place that the activity around me doesn't have anything to do with me. Like I read on my commute, and while I'm on the train or on the bus in New York City, most of what is happening around me doesn't have anything to do with me. And sometimes it's better if you're not paying attention to the things that are happening around you. And so I could read, I could get into a brand new book in that setting, no problem. But if I'm at a table where there are other people who I know and they're having conversations around me about things that will impact me, or they're talking about events that I know about, then it's going to be a little bit more difficult for me to concentrate on a book. So I don't play music while I'm reading, but if there's music playing in the background, once it's not my music, once I have no control over the music, once I'm not really listening to it, it's fine for me to disengage from that and focus on the book. As it relates to nonfiction, I could read nonfiction almost anywhere, anytime. I could read nonfiction while there are other things happening around me that do involve me. So I think it's just fiction that requires my focus a little bit more. Maybe it's a type of fiction. I've been reading a lot of complex writing, I would say. Like this year I'm reading Man Booker books, and some of them are books that have a lot of allegory and they kind of need more focus. And so I like to have it quiet when I'm reading. That was a really long answer. Question 6, one book at a time or several at once? I think I've always been able to read several books kind of around the same time. You can never truly read 2 books at once. You're either moving from one to the next, or reading one from beginning to end and then moving on. So saying that you're moving back and forth from a book to another just means that you're not reading the whole story before you move on to the next one. And I've done that pretty seamlessly for the past few years. And in the past few months, I've done a lot more of that because I've been doing more group reading, more buddy reading, where I'm reading things with other people. And in order to keep up to a pace, usually that we've set even before we started the book, then it means that I'm not just reading that. I'm reading other things. And I find that I'm able to do that without much need for transition. Like I don't forget about the story when I come back. So there is no issue with that. For me, the only difficulty sometimes is actually leaving the story where I'm supposed to. Like we decide we're only going to read chapters 1 and 2 today. At the end of chapter 2, if there's something that has me really immersed in the story, do I really want to stop? So usually for me, the challenge is not moving forward before the rest of the group or before my buddy read partner. But yes, I do and can read multiple books, moving back and forth from one to the next story. Absolutely. Also, I do read some amount of nonfiction. The last year or so, my nonfiction reading has dwindled. I'm going to use that word, dwindled. I don't read half as much nonfiction as I used to. But back when I read a lot of nonfiction, I would always have at least 3 books going at any one time. I'd have a fiction book that I'm reading, I'd have a nonfiction book that I'm reading, and I'd have some kind of an electronic read, whatever genre it was. I would have something that I was able to read on my phone or my iPad if I was traveling. And for me, reading nonfiction, especially, well, I guess it depends on the kind of nonfiction as well, but for most nonfiction that I read, I'm not necessarily needing or wanting to read it from cover to cover in one go. I like to read parts of the book and meditate, or allow myself time and room to just think about what I've read or what I've learned and have discussions about it, and then come back for the next chapter or part. So yes, I do move from one book to another while I'm in the process of reading it. Question number 7, reading at home or everywhere. I think I alluded to these answers earlier. I read at home a lot, but I also spend a lot of time outside of the home. So I read on the train, I read in the car if someone else is driving, I read in the coffee shop, I read in the library, I read wherever. If I'm in line in the store, I pull out something and I'm reading. I'm always reading, so not just at home, but everywhere. Question 8, reading out loud or silently in your head. That's an interesting question because I've been doing a read aloud, read along here on my channel. If you're new to the channel, or if you haven't been watching my read aloud series, I've been reading chapters of Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. And I've been doing the series where now I've posted 20 chapters that I've read aloud on the internet. And I know some people will say it's weird, but other people have told me how much they enjoy hearing the book read aloud. So I read aloud for the internet. I don't necessarily read aloud at home or for myself. Although I have found that reading aloud forces you to pull back. And as you're pronouncing and announcing the words, it's like you're allowing yourself to get a little bit deeper into the story. It's like you're engaging with the prose in a different way. And I find some benefit for me, some benefit to my understanding and my capacity with the story as I read aloud. And so that's something that I do. I heard Sean the Book Maniac mention when he did this video that when he is tired or if he feels like he's sleepy and he wants to continue reading, he will read aloud to get himself a little bit more engaged in the book. And I absolutely have found that to be the case. Not necessarily because I'm sleepy, but just I feel like I enjoy the book better when I read aloud. It takes on a bigger, more meaningful quality, I suppose, is what happens. And I would recommend it if you're reading something that you're not really sure that you love, just to kind of get into the poetry, into the prose, into the expression of the language. Reading aloud does have the ability to give you something that you would otherwise miss. But it also takes a lot longer because, you know, when you read silently, you're not reading everything, you're not pronouncing everything. That takes time. And so reading aloud takes longer, but it does have more of a benefit. So you could decide which one works for you at whatever time. Question number 9, do you read ahead or even skip pages? Do I read ahead? I think reading ahead would suggest that you're reading with a partner. I do not skip pages, no. If I'm reading a book, I'm reading the book. I'm reading the whole book. And if I'm skimming a book, usually it's because I'm not reading it for myself, I'm reading it for something else. So I was working with a student and we were reading Malcolm X's, the autobiography of Malcolm X as told to Alex Haley. And he had to write an essay and I was helping him. So I had to skim some parts because I needed to get acquainted with events in the book in a shorter time than I would have been able to read it. And so I skimmed it because I needed to find information. But for me, that's not reading the book. I haven't read the book yet because I haven't read all the pages. So no, I wouldn't say that I skip pages. And to read ahead just says, well, I'm reading. Yeah. So no, I don't skip pages and I don't read ahead. I just read. Question number 10, breaking the spine or keeping it like new. Now that is one of my pet peeves. I like to keep the book as new as I can. There have been people who've gotten books from me, books that I've owned for a while and books that I have read sometimes multiple times, and the books are still in like new conditions, and they ask, are you sure you read this book? I like to keep the books new. I would like the book to remain as new as possible. Not because I want it to appear as though I haven't read it. Just why not preserve the quality of the book as long as possible? So no, I don't break the spine. Although the other day I do remember breaking the spine of a book. Why did I do that? It was a book that, it was one of those, I think it was an arc, and it was huge. I can't remember which book it was now, but I couldn't get the book to open and stay open for me to, I think I was writing a review of it, and so I just kind of broke the spine. And I remember when I was breaking it, I was thinking, Karen, what are you doing? But I did break the spine, and I'm fine with that because it was an arc. It's kind of a throwaway book, which means I'm not going to reread it, and I'm not going to sell it because you can't sell arcs. And if it's someone that I want to read the book, as in I love the book and I want someone else to love the book as well, I'd probably be more inclined to give them a copy of the book, actually buy a copy and support the publisher. Because, you know, I have gotten arcs, I have given arcs to friends, but that's more of an introduction because I think that the person will love the book enough and buy the book themselves. I think that in the book blogging community, if we are book lovers, as we say we are, then we also have to support the industry that provides the thing that we love. And so I don't necessarily think that we should share arcs to the detriment of the books being purchased. So I wouldn't give an arc to someone that I think that would prevent them from buying the book. And having an arc doesn't mean that I won't buy the book myself either. Having read the arc or having read a book from the library doesn't mean that I won't buy a book. So all of this to answer the question, do I break the spine? Yes, I have broke the spine before, but it's not my preference. It's not my regular tendency. I like to keep the book in pristine condition. That would be best. And question number 11, do you write in your books? No, not really. I write on Post-its. I write on Post-its and stick those on the pages just because I like to have notes sometimes, especially if it's a book that I'm going to be discussing with a group, not just making a review video. And sometimes even when I'm making a review video, I like to have notes. Sometimes I type the notes on my computer. I reference the page numbers there, but most times if I'm just, you know, sitting someplace else and I don't have my computer out, I'll have Post-its and I'll write Post-its and stick them on the pages. But these days I don't write like in the margins, not so much. I used to, and I do have books still that I wrote in, and I'm okay with having writing in my book. I remember, I think it was Ariel Bissett who had made a video some years ago where she talked about personalizing a book by writing in it, so that when you give that book to someone, whether it's a child a generation from now or a friend, giving that person the book that has your notes in it is also giving them a part of how the book has affected you, and that makes it a very personal gift. But I also feel like we shouldn't want to impact someone else's appreciation of the book in that way. I don't know. I'm still a little conflicted about where I stand on that. But for now, I have notes in books, notes that have been written on Post-its that are in the book. So if at any point I wanted to give someone a book gift with notes, then those notes would be removable, and they could remove them until after they've experienced the story themselves, and then they could put them back. And this is a funny segue because I do make Runwright Reads book boxes, which have books that I've read and curated with my notes inside, but they're not notes that are written on margins or written inside the book. Quite often, I either put Post-its or I put papers that I've written notes on that you can take out until after you've read that page or after you've read that chapter. You've had your own impression of the story, and then you could refer to my notes. So I do make book boxes, and if you're interested, you can click the link down below. That's the Runwright Reads book boxes. They're on my Etsy shop, and yeah. So again, another shameless plug. I'm sorry, that was not my intention when I started this video, but those are the 11 questions that make up the reading habits tag. I just wanted to make a video and share that with you today. So thank you for watching. If you're new to the channel, I noticed I've had some new subscribers. I don't know where you came from, but thank you for being here, and I hope you stay. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Subscribe if you want to see more. I make videos almost every day, sometimes not quite every day, sometimes I miss a day or two, but as often as my schedule permits, I'll make and post a video, so you'll always be hearing from me. So thanks for watching this video. Watch another one and share this one if you know someone else who would like to have a bookish conversation, and let's talk in the comments. Let me know your answers to at least one of these questions. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your reading habits. Let me know that I'm not so strange. So we'll talk down there, and until next time, happy reading.